When it comes to modern wheeled armoured fighting vehicles, few platforms have had the same level of global reach and influence as the Piranha, originally developed by Swiss company Mowag. The name itself may not have any immediate meaning for Canadians or Americans, but we're sure the Piranha's offshoots/descendants, the LAV and Stryker, may have more name recognition in North America. Aussies and Kiwis may be more familiar with the ASLAV and the NZLAV. Again, platforms that can be traced back to the Piranha. So for today's video, we wanted to go through this entire family tree, from the first Piranha through to the latest 5th generation, and the main regional offshoots that were developed in between. Let's get started. We're not going to get too technical in this video with specifications and abilities, nor will we go over every single variant and customer. Rather, the main purpose of this video is to go over the Piranha family tree, trace the origins of the LAV and Stryker, and look at the various families that have been developed. If you'd like a deep dive into a particular vehicle, do let us know by leaving a comment. And so it all began with the Piranha 1, which was launched in 1972. This would be a family of 4x4, 6x6 and 8x8 armoured vehicles. Its maker at the time was Swiss company Mowag, who had become a main supplier of armoured vehicles for the Swiss Army. The 6x6 Piranha 1 was the basis for the Canadian Army's Armoured Vehicle General Purpose, or AVGP. 6 vehicles had entered the AVGP competition, which began in 1973, and it was only in 1976 or 77 that the government officially selected the Mowag Piranha. The selection was not only based on field trial performance, but also the fact that Mowag was the only firm offering licensed production in Canada, partnering with General Motors' diesel division, now General Dynamics Land Systems Canada, to produce the vehicles. It said that the Canadian Army initially intended to procure 4 AVGP variants: a tank trainer or direct fire support vehicle, an armoured personnel carrier or APC, an anti-tank missile version, and an engineer vehicle. In the end, the anti-tank missile and engineer versions were not developed. The AVGP family would thus consist of the armoured reconnaissance/fire support vehicle, Cougar, armoured personnel carrier, Grizzly, and maintenance and recovery vehicle, Husky. All variants were meant to be amphibious with a swimming speed of up to 10 km per hour. However, it's said that the marine drives were later removed because of the cost of maintaining them. In the early 1980s, prior to the Piranha 2 program launching, the United States Marine Corps would seek a light armored vehicle to give their divisions greater mobility. An 8-wheeled version of the AVGP platform from Canada's General Motors diesel was selected and developed into the LAV-25. You'll hear LAV over and over and over again throughout the rest of this video, so in case you didn't know, this stands for Light Armored Vehicle. Also amphibious, this American derivative featured a 25mm cannon, hence the name LAV-25. To be more precise, the vehicle featured an M242 Bushmaster chain gun as its main armament. The family tree gets a little messy here, especially when you look at the timeline. Some sources note that the LAV-2 and LAV-25 are based on the Piranha 2. However, the LAV-25, which entered service with the Marines in 1983, obviously predates the launch of the Piranha 2 program, which only launched in 1988. The divergence makes sense with General Motors diesel somewhat doing its own thing separate from Mowag. Information on the Piranha 2 is scarce, but a contributor to the website armedconflicts.com says that the hull of the Piranha 2 was lengthened by 290mm to provide more interior space. Further increases in internal space were provided by side storage extensions, and improvements were made to the armoring, powertrain, and gearbox compartment layout. Back in Canada, the Canadian Army's LAV-2 platform was developed with 2 main variants, the Bison and Coyote. Again, produced by General Motors Diesel in London, Ontario, the website Canadian Military History stated that GM Diesel was facing a year with empty production lines, and so some salesmen and engineers attempted to sell an improved LAV to Canada. At this point, it becomes quite clear to us that the Piranha and LAV lineages have diverged sufficiently, even if there is similar technology and armor. Thus, we feel that it's more accurate to say that the Canadian LAV-2 family has roots in the AVGP family, rather than an adaptation of the Piranha 2 platform. Indeed, the LAV-2 has more similarities to the Marine Corps' LAV-25. So for the LAV-2 family, the Bison had variants for command, control, airspace coordination, medevac, mobile repair/recovery, electronic warfare, and reconnaissance. It entered service with the Canadian Forces in 1990. The Coyote, entering service in 1996, would take reconnaissance to the next level, either featuring a mast-mounted surveillance system, a variant with a remote surveillance suite, or a more basic reconnaissance/command post variant. Down under in Australia, the Australian Defence Forces would take the Marine Corps' LAV-25 and develop it into the ASLAV, short form for Australian Light Armoured Vehicle. Entering service in the mid-1990s, the ASLAV Type 1 8-wheeled IFV would also feature a 25mm cannon as its main armament. In addition to Type 1 would be the ASLAV Type 2 armoured personnel carrier and the Type 3 repair and recovery vehicle. Going back to Europe again, we would see Mowag offer the Piranha 3 in 1996. Said to offer a quote-unquote leap in protection, it appears that improved armor was the key difference from the Piranha 2. The Piranha 3 would have two main variants, the Piranha 3H and Piranha 3C. According to the source VPK, the 3C was a later upgraded version of the 3H, with the primary differences being improved powertrain, suspension, and vehicle profile. And over in Canada, Scholarly Community Encyclopedia states that in August 1995, General Motors Diesel was awarded the contract to produce the LAV-3. This platform would incorporate the 25mm turret and weapon system used with the Coyote. Shortly after the LAV-3 was developed, U.S. Army Chief of Staff at the time, General Eric Shinseki, outlined a plan to adapt his force to post-Cold War conditions. The plan called for the adoption of a flexible doctrine that would enable the force to rapidly deploy and be equipped for a variety of operational environments. This led to the development of the IAV, or Interim Armored Vehicle, renamed the Stryker in 2002. The Stryker family of vehicles was based on the Canadian LAV-3 as developed by General Motors Diesel of Canada. However, early Strykers did not have a 25mm cannon on top, and instead featured lighter weapons. The Stryker family would eventually see the development of many more variants, including but not limited to the M1128 Mobile Gun System, or MGS, and the M1296 Infantry Carrier Vehicle Dragoon, or ICVD. And so with the US Army's introduction and ongoing use and development of the Stryker platform, it definitely seems like another offshoot of the family tree, away from LAV and Piranha. But going back to the Canadian LAV-3, we would also see the development of the NZLAV for New Zealand's Defence Forces. We're not too sure how different the Kiwi version is from the Canadian variant, but the NZLAV is also 8-wheeled with a 25mm cannon and is a highly mobile, light armoured vehicle. Maybe at this point we should mention that in the early 2000s we would see the big changes in corporate ownership. In 1999, General Motors would acquire Switzerland's Mowag. At the same time, GM's former diesel division is transformed to the new business unit General Motors Defense. Then, in 2003, General Dynamics Corporation would acquire General Motors Defense. With this acquisition, GM's Swiss subsidiary Mowag also became part of General Dynamics. To bundle their expertise, create synergies, and better address customer needs, GD would regroup its European subsidiaries into one entity, General Dynamics European Land Systems. This would somewhat unite or reunite the various offshoots under the General Dynamics brand. At the same time, the separate sales and development would remain, as the LAV would still be developed by General Dynamics Land Systems Canada, while the Piranha would be offered by General Dynamics European Land Systems. Around the time Mowag was being transformed into General Dynamics European Land Systems, the Piranha 4 would be developed. The first prototype was unveiled in 2001 and a second in 2004. This iteration had an increased volume inside the cabin and again a higher level of protection. And while serial production of the Piranha 4 appears to be ongoing, it looks like the Piranha 5 was developed and launched around 2008 to 2010. This version was developed with input from General Dynamics UK, as it was designed to meet the British Army's requirements of the Future Rapid Effect System, or FRES, program. BattleUpdates.com reports that the UK's MOD and General Dynamics UK couldn't agree on commercial terms, and so the program was abandoned. The Boxer-based Mechanized Infantry Vehicle, or MIV program, is understood to be the spiritual successor to the failed FRES program. But before getting off track and going deep on British procurement, we should say that the larger Piranha 5 was officially presented in 2010 and features an entirely new suspension system. This platform is offered as either a 6x6, 8x8 or 10x10 vehicle with optional amphibious capability. As it relates to the geographical focus of our channel, Denmark is a major operator of the Piranha 5, operating the platform as 6 different variants: Infantry, Command, Pioneer, Ambulance, Repair, and Mortar. Spain is one of the newest operators of this vehicle, calling it the VCR Dragon. On the other side of the Atlantic, General Dynamics Land Systems Canada would develop the LAV-6 to replace the Canadian Army's LAV-3s and older LAV variants. The first LAV-6s entered service in 2016. For Canada, the LAV-6 is operated in 5 variants: Infantry Section Carrier, or ISC, Command Post, Engineer, Reconnaissance, and Observation Post vehicle. A year after the LAV-6 entered service, General Dynamics Land Systems unveiled the LAV-700 at the 2017 International Defence Exhibition and Conference. An upgrade of the LAV-6, the LAV-700 features digital command and control architecture, including health and usage monitoring systems. It also has self-sealing fuel tanks, energy-attenuating seats, add-on armor, and scalable ballistic protection sitting atop a double V hull. Saudi Arabia is the main customer of this platform thus far, with the first delivery having taken place sometime around 2019. So, as you can see, even without going over detailed technical specifications or listing every single customer/operator, there has been a lot to cover regarding the Piranha/LAV/Stryker family tree. Just from looking at the newest LAVs and Strykers, it's clear that these offshoots have really developed separately from the Piranha family. In fact, let's conclude this long video with the family tree all laid out. Here is how it's presented on Wikipedia. It was good enough to get us started on our research journey for this video, but the more research we did, the more we were convinced that it was incorrect. Here is our version of things. As we already explained, the LAV-25 is more an offshoot of the AVGP. The LAV-25 was also the precursor to the Canadian Bison and Coyote and the Australian ASLAV. The Piranha 2 and subsequent Piranhas would develop separately, and LAVs would go their own way, having less and less connection to their Swiss cousins. Nonetheless, the common ancestry exists with over 4 decades of development. So, what do you think of these vehicles and how they all developed from a common Swiss ancestor? Do you have a favorite platform? Let us know by leaving a comment.